22. It's called the marriage dinner. Matthew 22, and I just want to begin with verse 1. Because I think he's going to present to us a different kind of a ministry, a different kind of a mission, and we need to be, we've supported that, and we want to continue to do so. But let me just read this, beginning with verse 1. And Jesus answered and spake unto them again by parables, and said, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. Again he sent forth other servants, saying, Tell them which are bidden, Behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their ways, one to his farm, another to his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. Then said he to his servants, The wedding is ready, but they which were bidden were not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways, and gathered together as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And there's more to that parable, and I'll let you read that, but the first part of it is talking that Christ came to his own people, and they rejected him, would not receive him. And of course, parables have a meaning within a meaning, and so he's talking here about the gospel going to the Gentiles. And he says here, so those servants went out into the highways and gathered together as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And so God is including everybody. And we need to remember that, and I hope that's what we're about here at Gethsemane Church, that no one is left out. Doesn't matter their color, doesn't matter their status in life, it doesn't matter who they are. You know, I was one of those folks there, and I still am. And the Lord reached out to me and saved my soul. And he does that all the time, and that's what we want to be about. I believe Brother Bob is going to talk to us about a ministry that reaches out to people and tries to help them and work with them and bring them to the gospel. And
as you can tell, we rehearsed. Good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Bob Sody. I have to stress that I'm just an unworthy servant, a broken man. And, earlier today, Pastor asked for testimony for what we were thankful for, and I chickened out like usual. But since I'm up here, I have to tell you, I'm very thankful to God for my mother, my family, my friends, this church, and especially Pastor and Sister Judy. I mostly am very thankful this season that God gave me the opportunity to serve him in a different way. This was the very first mission trip that we've ever attempted to do down in Memphis to support the Morning Center. Let's see if it works. Hey, I'm going to take a little time to explain exactly what the Morning Center is so that you can better understand. It's taken me a while to grasp it all. It's a time for a new dawn in maternity care. A pregnant woman who chooses life for her child needs a caring community of support. Far too often, the Christians who urged her not to abort can offer nothing more for maternity care than government aid forms. It is time for Christians to provide loving, personalized maternity care in Jesus' name to any mother who needs it, free of charge. Here's some of the people that are part of the Morning Center. I want to stress that, see the fathers. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to use this, I'm sorry. Note the fathers. It is so important to get the father because they are the head of the church in the family. These people, doesn't that sound terrible? These Christians have come to the Lord because of the Morning Center and gotten their entire families underneath Christ's direction and care. Okay? Note, oh, I hit the wrong button. This maternity bag here, that comes from a church in Morton who goes ahead and supplies those. And that's one of the things that we did as we got there, just to make sure that we had all the diaper stuff and the lotions and all the baby stuff in there. The Morning Center Hospital and Mobile Care Unit project is the next step in the pro-life movement. Together we can bring a new day in maternity care and lavish the love of Jesus Christ on women and unborn children who desperately need it. Once again, note, in the center, that's another child, and the whole family has been brought into the church. The Morning Center project was founded to provide free, full-service maternity care to women in urban and underserved areas where quality care is limited and scarce. We provide Christ-centered prenatal and postpartum care throughout mobile care units and community clinics while partnering, you can say it, with local hospitals for delivery care. Any medical staff and all medical staff are trained professionals who are focused on the needs of the mother and her baby. The Morning Center mobile units serve the needs of women in their neighborhoods through partnerships with local churches and community organizations. The Morning Center project is a privately funded Christian charity, but I do want to go back, that's why it's underlined. Local churches and community organizations. We bring a lot of different churches together, and I'm going to try to explain some of them that we work with. What it is they allow our mobile unit to come in, set up offices, and have all the tools and equipment that's required at least one day a week. And then ladies from that neighborhood can set appointments or come in walk-ins and receive the care. Okay. Les, if you remember the letter that I wrote to you or read to you before I left, it was Les's words that I was giving you. Les is the director of the Morning Center in Memphis. Someday we hope to be national, so that's why we want to stress Memphis. Les has been a very devout Christian, has 5 different children. It's amazing what he does with what little he has and how he's trying to bring the whole body of the Church of Christ together. One of the churches that we work with is the Red Door Ministry, and this is Eric Wallace. He is a pastor that spends a lot of time in an area known as Clementine or the Warren Apartments. I don't know if anybody here saw the movie Blindsided with Sandra Bullock. Remember the part where she was told, "Don't get out of the car"? That's where Eric's at. I must tell you, one Thursday morning when we were there, we were sharing prayer and getting motivated to go finish a project. And a young man walked past the door, and immediately Eric's like, hey, where are you going? Why aren't you in school? The young man said that he didn't have his uniform for his ROTC, so he didn't know what to do. Eric apologized to us and said he'd see us in a little bit. He went ahead and grabbed that young man and took him to school. That's the kind of thing Eric does in that neighborhood. People of all different backgrounds respect him and give him pretty free range because they respect what he's doing. He's really trying to make a change. All righty, this is Ayrton. Everybody together say eye, ear, tongue. Ready? Eye, ear, tongue. You now know how to talk Brazilian. Ayrton is a Brazilian pastor that has come up here to America for his mission and is planning on staying. Memphis is considered by many to be a third world country. Yes, we have bad neighborhoods in Peoria. In Memphis, other than like the downtown area and some of the eastern parts and like around Elvis, you see miles and miles and miles of businesses that they're open, but they all have bars on the windows. There are businesses that are closed. Family Dollars, I bet you I saw 45 of them. No exaggeration. There's always people there to make money off of poverty. The problem is that some of these neighborhoods, like where Eric is, you have to go about 2 miles to even begin to find a Family Dollar, and that's the closest you can get. Now, Ayrton is part of the Bellevue-Fraser. The Bellevues have 5 different churches in the Memphis area. Fraser is the neighborhood where he's at. They have an old church there that was left vacant for 6 years to weather and everything else. And he, in the last 6 months, has opened it up and cleaned it up. And that's part of what we got the projects from, too. They have 3 different congregations now that go into that church every Sunday. And, of course, the morning center is there at least one day of the week. Okay, standing in front of the Red Door Ministry. This is what it is. It's basically just one apartment that they have for the morning center. Now, we've gone ahead and we're renting another one right next door, which we cleaned out while we were there. I did not bring pictures because they were very disgusting. So that they can expand the morning center and take care of more ladies and have a little more room. They do not keep this locked during the day, so anyone can go in there. So if Eric is out taking care of something, you can still go in there. It's a very community center. So much so that a couple weeks before we went there, Planned Parenthood actually went in there and put in some of their pamphlets. Of course, they were removed. But it's funny that they want to come right to where we are. This is our group that went. As you notice, we had nice purple t-shirts. Believe it or not, 2 young ladies from the University of Memphis came, and I got to talk to them, and they wanted to set up a ministry for transportation in Memphis because it's very hard to get around. I walked them up to the Red Door Ministry to find Eric, and I explained that we were from Samaritan Ministries and we were volunteering on mission. Well, see, they have all these security guards there at Clementine, or the Warren Apartments. And there's like 5 or 6 of them. And I mean, they got their bulletproof vests and their guns and their walkie-talkies and their cell phones, and they stand there all day. Well, it turns out, like a couple hours later, Paige, the young lady here, when talking to those girls, they thought we were prisoners doing like prison work. And that's because we were out there with those old chain gang weed whacker things, but we tried to have the uniform. This is the garden that was existing, and if you notice, that's red clay there at the Warren Apartments, okay? I tried to get a pan shot of the whole area because then we had to go ahead and do the labor. Now, what we were doing is we went ahead and built 10 different raised beds, and we filled it with good soil, okay? You guys might recognize Brian Evans. He used to attend here. Notice that everybody got together. I'm really going to talk about this gentleman here in a minute. I want you to see how involved he is. His name is Jimmy. Jimmy came over and asked me what we were going to do. And this is before our dirt showed up or our lumber. And when I explained it to him, he was so excited because he was the one that was tending the clay garden and tried to raise tomatoes this last year. Jimmy does drink about an 18-pack a day, although he did not drink when he was around us. We included him, of course, in our lunch and our prayers. I wanted to give him a Bible, but someone advised me I should be careful because they do have Bible study in the Red Door Ministry, but you don't necessarily want to push it on someone to read because you don't know how well someone can read there. Jimmy stayed with us all day long. The following day, we let the dirt settle. He went and started on his own and shoveled all the dirt then on his clay bed as well. And 2 or 3 individuals came out of the Warren Apartments and volunteered with him to do it. So, I mean, I really feel we made a connection not only with Jimmy by helping him with what he's trying to attempt to do because there's so many mothers and this is free food, okay? The young man to the other side, we called him Skate. The truth is his name was kind of like Dwayne and Andrew put together, but I'm just an old fuddy-duddy, and it was kind of difficult for most of us, so he just said call him Skate because he came up on a skateboard. What are you guys doing? Well, we're building gardens. He says, can I help? Sure, come on. And he stayed with us all day. He's a young man. He has a full-time job. Doesn't know how to get out of this area or do what he does. He loves origami. Very impressed with this young man. We've got him with Eric, and we've really hoped and prayed with him that he would go ahead and stay with Eric and help with the Red Door Ministry because he truly has a good heart. It's just a matter of getting him completely with the Lord. But I hope that we planted that seed, no pun on the garden. The gardens afterwards. These are the clay gardens that are now covered. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting the pointer. And then we have 10 of them laid out. Now, we cleared enough area so that in January, another trip that's going can put in at least 7 more gardens. And if they clear a little more land, they can do 10. My biggest challenge is I'm thinking already March. We got to make sure there's plenty of plants and seeds to make sure we have all that garden taken care of. Down here is a sign that, I'm sorry, it's not, I guess, large enough for everyone to see, but that was painted by one of the residents there in Clementine or the Warren Apartments. Community pride coming together with the Red Door Ministry and bringing them to Christ. Right down working in the trenches. Stuff. Remember those bags I mentioned before that came out of the church in Morton? Well, one of the other things is we filled our vans as best as we could before we went with any kind of baby needing material that we could purchase and take care of. Never can run out of this stuff. Whether it's clothing, shoes, baby outfits, they ask for them to be new up until a certain age. But I mean, diapers, baby wipes, all the stuff that's required. That they actually have to teach some of the mothers what they are used for. I mean, they had luncheons while we were there. Some of the ladies had luncheons with them, and they would talk about proper diet, nutritional diet, breastfeeding, how to take care of yourself, prenatal and everything. There we go. This is for you. At Bellevue Fraser, I never felt fear the whole time I was in Memphis. Not until I got up here and my knees started wobbling. But notice that they have to build a fence, 10-foot fence high with concertina barbed wire all the way around it to protect their church bus. And I think of how many people ask me where I go to church. I tell them, and they say, "Where's that?" And I say, "Schaeferville." Ooh, I don't know. It's like, now that's a neighborhood. One of the things they wanted us to do to help them there was to transplant a bunch, 27 I think it was, palm trees and rubber plants and stuff that wouldn't survive the winter. They asked for it, we did it, because that's what we were there for, to serve that ministry the best we could, because they help with the morning center. How many pianos need removed? Well, we cleared out an entire second floor section of a building that had been left for 6 years. They had a lot of pianos, and trust me, they didn't play well. So, Sister Judy, they weren't good to anybody. And they were all on the second floor, so we had to get them down the steps as well and then out. No, I'm not helping anyone here move a piano very soon, no. Ayrton, the pastor from Brazil, he wanted to feed us on Thursday. And I must tell you, I love eating meat, but I got sick of meat in Memphis because everybody feeds you meat. I mean, I remember they fed us a lunch on Tuesday in the basement of a church, and they had green beans. Mom, I tell you, I was looking for my green beans. It was nice. This is a piece of beef that big. There were like, what, 12 of us eating? But he fed us well, and then the leftovers, I guess, were for a celebration that they were going to have on Saturday. This is for Nathan. What a great T-shirt that is. On Friday morning before we went to the Planned Parenthood, even though we had laundry facilities and my T-shirts were clean, I just felt like it was time to wear a King James shirt. And I got a couple comments on it, as I do whenever I try to wear them. Let's see here. Okay, this is where it doesn't get so happy and fun and all that. Planned Parenthood is very different in Memphis than it is here in Peoria. I know 2 different times 9 of us stood together from this church in front of Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood was closed, okay? Second thing is they don't do the actual surgical abortions there. They send them up the hill to university. Now, I have been on the university up there when it was a killing day. And, you know, they have a couple of their volunteers with orange vests kind of like protect the drive-in part, and the young ladies come in, and we can't really speak to them, and then they tell them to go around back, and we don't have a chance to interact with them. This is not the case in Memphis. This building is a 3-story building. It is a federal building, a government building. The first 2 floors are Planned Parenthood. The top floor is for probation and parole. It is on a very busy street, and there are people there that go out and stand on that line every Friday morning. There are stats. I know we're supposed to leave the statistics to God, but there are stats that show that if one person is praying in front of there, 1 out of 4 reconsiders. Now, out of those that are the 1 out of 4, we can only hope. These gentlemen here have a different approach than what I think we do. But, you know, everybody has their own direction. They basically, the one gentleman has a microphone on and a loudspeaker, and they pretty much rebuke the evil that they see. Somebody gave me a sign. Oops, wrong one. Somebody gave me a sign that I stood with because I was conditioned by how we do it here in Peoria. We've all stood on the prayer line, on university even, sometimes at the church or up at the abortion clinic, but we pretty much pay attention to the traffic. And the traffic responds to us. Some of them, you know, honk and say, way to go. Others, well, who cares what they say or do. They do tell us we're number 1, though, a lot. But in this situation, I got to stand directly in front of the front door. Now, I can't go past a certain line, which gave me about 25 feet to the front door. One of the things I observed is both the Federal Express and the United States Postal Service delivered and picked up while I was there. And it made me think of something I'd never considered before. You know, they have to get the implements of destruction from somewhere, and they're being delivered there. And I wonder if those drivers are aware of what their complacency is. And then the other thing is the body parts. They have to get them out of there somewhere. And I don't know how they do their mojo, but I wonder if the Post Office and the Federal Express even cooperate with that. Of course, I prayed for them, and I asked for mercy for the drivers. They have a guard, an actual armed guard, wearing a khaki uniform. He had blue stripes on his pants. I was informed that if they wear blue stripes, it means he's a veteran. Thank you, Lord, for our veterans. But I wondered, I tried so hard to talk to him, trying to call him over quite a few times. I wondered if he was aware that he was just continuing Hitler's dream of eugenics, you know. But I could never get a conversation. I even tried to yell at him, hey, where did you serve? Because most time, Eric, you know, if you say that, most time a vet will come over and tell you where he served. Pastor knows that. Couldn't get him. At one point, I saw a tall man come out with a Miami hat. And I don't know what a sports team is for Miami, but I know it's not the Cardinals. He had a cross on. A nice golden cross. Oh, sorry. And I immediately called out to him. I said, hey, you're a Christian. Can we talk? And he looked at me and said, I can't come where you are, but could you come over here? Let's talk. You're a Christian. I'm a Christian. And he did. He came over, and as he walks towards me, I see that he has a necklace on, and it says, Dad. I said, wow, you're a father too? He says, absolutely. I got 4 daughters. In talking to Robert, and that was his name, what a great name. I said my name was Bob. He said his name was Robert, and we shook hands. He had driven there for 2 hours with a young lady in crisis, a young lady that was directed by her mother that she had to make this trip. He defended himself and said that he was a good Christian, and no matter what, she would have found her way, and there's probably some truth to that. I said to him, I bet you ministered with her all the way here. He says, I've ministered with this girl since she was born. He said he had 4 daughters. one of them does this and one of them does that. And I admit I wasn't really listening, but he said that tells him that he did right by his daughters. And I didn't argue with him, because the truth is we do right by God. But he was in a bad place. He ended up admitting that he knew he was wrong. He didn't know what to do. We prayed together. He told me the young lady had about 25 minutes left because she was already in the room waiting the procedure. I begged this man. I debated lightly with this man. I tried to talk logic with this man. I shared with this man. We shared together. I begged him. Finally, about 5 minutes left, I did get him to try to text her back, because I told him, I said, you and I both know, Robert, if you want to, you can go. And he says, you don't understand. They got her. You can't get in. I said, if you wanted in there, we know you could. I challenged him. He made the text. He was worried that if he did do this or text her, that she might actually say, get mad at him. And a friend of mine, Les, remember Les? Les immediately countered with that, if she were drunk and getting in a car to drive, you'd take her keys and she'd be mad at you. And he did try to text her, and she did reply, but we lost. We lost. Robert has a name. That young lady has a name. That baby has a name. And that's something I talked about before I left, that each and every one of these stories has a name. I could tell you right now that, in the last 2 years, the Morning Center has brought over 100 babies into this world in the love of Jesus Christ. Yes, amen, but we lose too. Young lady walking towards the door. Behind her is another lady who has a child by the hand. I looked at her and I said, hey, would you like some help? And our eyes met. And she said, yeah. I said, well, you come talk to me. I said, we can get you free help. It's nice to have that tool. We don't have it here in Peoria, but it's great to know that in Memphis we have that tool. She turns to the lady behind her with the baby or the child and says, I'm going over there. And she points at me. She walks the 30 feet over to where I'm at. The other lady followed with the child. I immediately introduced myself and I said, hi, I'm Bob. We shook hands. She said, my name's Thelma. I said, Thelma, that's a beautiful name, and I put my hand on top of our hands. I said, do you want some help? She goes, yes. I said, would you like to have this baby? Yes. All right, we're going to get you some help. I turned and I called for Les. At this time, the guy next to me, who also was a friend of mine and a brother from Samaritan, handed her a couple of the pamphlets on the Morning Center, what it was, and Les's personal business card, because that's how Les does it. You call him directly anytime, and he jumps and moves and gets you where you need to be. Well, Les came over, and I said, Les, Thelma would like to have help with the Morning Center. And Les is there every Friday. He knows how the guard's going to come out and everything. He says, well, I'll tell you what. Can we go ahead, Thelma? Will you go with me, and let's go over here to the crisis pregnancy place where we can talk? And she says, yes. I let go of her hand. We'll get back to that. She gets about 30 paces down towards the corner. She's about 15 feet from the street where she can cross, and then she's in a neutral zone. And out of nowhere, her mother shows up. I assume her mother. And I'm watching from a distance, and I immediately say to my friend, start praying now. And he does. But that mother basically kind of said, you're going. Now, there's a law in Tennessee that says you cannot provoke anyone to have an abortion. Who are you going to call? They're not there. They really don't care. Unfortunately, that mother got her, Thelma, and her, I assume maybe her sister or friend with the child in the building, and we lost. Have you caught my mistake? I let go of her hand. Because of my conditioning of Peoria, hold the sign, focus on the street, Army training, stand your post, pass it on up the line. I failed. If I'd been holding her hand still when that mother had come over and started to argue and debate, perhaps my strength in my hand and holding it so she knew she wasn't alone, perhaps it would have made a difference. We don't know. But here's the challenge. I know I'm going back. I know I'm going back. And I also know up here in Peoria, we got to think about some different strategies that we might need to use so we can help people get with the Lord and save those babies. I'll never make that mistake again. Now, I swear I'm an unworthy servant and a broken man just like everybody here. And we all do what we can, where we can. We are all in the mission field. Whether it's saying somebody walking outside when it's cold, whether it's in the grocery store and someone's not sure if they can afford what they're buying. And I know this church, that means these people, that's right, these people do that daily. And I thank you. I have a presentation here for you, Pastor. Oops, there went that. Pastor. This is a certificate of appreciation, as you can see, to this church in the name of the Morning Center because of all your donations, your support, and your prayer. And I thank you. I thank you wholeheartedly, and so is the Morning Center.